Duke on allegations of illegally obtaining some 7.2 million shillings from a foreign national after allegedly luring him into a fictitious minerals deal.
On a warm afternoon in Nairobi, a foreign businessman from Australia, Andrew Adal Gabala, stepped out of a black SUV outside a luxury apartment in Kilimani. Two armed bodyguards stood near the entrance. Inside the building, several men in expensive suits were already waiting for him. On the table before them sat metallic boxes stamped with export labels of DRC gold. The atmosphere felt official, professional, and convincing. One of the men opened a box carefully and removed a gold bar wrapped in protective material. Moments later, the sample was placed into a furnace for testing, and the foreign investor watched silently as the metal melted under extreme heat. An XRF machine was then used to verify the purity, which read 99.6%. Everything appeared legitimate, and at the center of this scheme were Duncan Okanji and Mohammed Faraji. These two even orchestrated an elaborate gold smelting demonstration in order to convince the Australian businessman of the authenticity of the gold. The documents looked authentic. Lawyers were involved, politicians, and even senior government officials. By the end of the meeting, the investor had agreed to wire millions of shillings for transport fees, taxes, and clearance costs. He then wired 78 million shillings to a prominent city lawyer who immediately withdrew the money. But there was one problem. The gold did not exist. The bars inside the remaining boxes were all fake, as some were painted stones and the others were melted metal and padlocks designed to resemble gold. And by the time the victim realized the truth, the scammers had already disappeared into Nairobi's nightlife, spending millions in clubs, luxury car dealerships, and flashy lifestyles. For years, Nairobi has quietly become one of Africa's biggest centers for fake gold syndicates, a world where rented luxury cars, fake government documents, politicians, lawyers, and even armed escorts are all used to create one thing: an illusion. Tonight, we uncover how Nairobi's gold scammers operate, how victims lose millions, and how some of the masterminds behind these schemes transformed themselves into celebrities, businessmen, and even politicians. Welcome to Dark Hour Docs. Gold scamming in Nairobi is not a street crime, it is theater. Unlike ordinary fraudsters, gold scammers do not rely on threats or violence. They rely on appearance, since perception is everything. 1 kilogram of gold can be worth over 10 million Kenyan shillings, and anyone claiming to sell dozens of kilograms must look wealthy enough to be trusted. That's why many gold fraudsters invest heavily in image before they ever meet a victim. Luxury suits, high-end apartments in Kilimani and Westlands, convoys of hired vehicles, bodyguards, and expensive watches are all carefully designed to create the illusion of power and success. Some syndicates even hire luxury vehicles from car yards for meetings with clients. The meetings themselves are often carefully staged, with victims being picked up in luxury SUVs. They are driven through affluent neighborhoods, then escorted into expensive restaurants, hotels, or office spaces where several business associates are waiting. The goal is often psychological. First, overwhelm the victim with status before business discussions even begin. But appearance alone is not enough. The scammers also need credibility. They take photographs with politicians, government officials, and diplomats, which are often displayed during meetings. Some of them are genuine, often taken during public events, while others are scripted to manipulate the victim into thinking that these men are connected, protected, and untouchable. And once trust begins to build, the next phase of the operation begins. Lots of documents are presented, with the victims being shown export permits, customs clearances, mining certificates, and letters allegedly issued by regional authorities, such as the United Nations mission in Congo. This paperwork is made to appear authentic, provided with official stamps, signatures, and official government representation. A good example is the Kenny murder case, where a deal was allowed to occur on February 13, 2020, at the office of the deputy president for the same reasons. The deal involved a 39 billion shilling scam on a Polish investor and required a former CS to be a success. Often, many of the documents used in such deals are forged, with the scammers introducing the story behind the gold. According to the syndicates, the gold originates from mines inside the Democratic Republic of Congo and is being smuggled through Uganda and Kenya due to instability in the region. To inexperienced foreign buyers, the explanation sounds believable, and that is exactly the point, because by now, the victim is no longer questioning whether the deal is real. Instead, he is asking how soon the shipment can leave Nairobi. And behind many of these fake gold deals are men who transformed fraud into influence, luxury, and untouchable power inside Nairobi's underground economy. Over the years, Nairobi's fake gold industry has grown so large that it has nearly created diplomatic crises twice. In both 2011 and 2018, major international figures found themselves linked to controversial gold deals connected to Kenya. Among the names caught in the chaos were former Democratic Republic of Congo President Joseph Kabila and Dubai ruler Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum. This alone shows just how far this underground business reaches, and at the center of many of these allegations sits one man whose name has followed Nairobi's fake gold world for years. Paul Kobia, also known as Paul Elunga Noel. Born in Meru County in 1968, Kobia built the image of a wealthy international businessman dealing in precious minerals from eastern Congo. As CEO of the Great Lakes Group, he claimed a net worth of over $55 million. But it was not just the money that made people notice him. It was the lifestyle. Kobia stunned Nairobi after allegedly walking into a luxury dealership in the city and purchased 2 Range Rovers with 16 million shillings in cash. He even became one of the first Kenyans to own an Audi Q7 months later and lived a posh life in a riverside estate, always protected by armed bodyguards. He carried himself like a man beyond ordinary power. But behind the luxury, controversy followed closely. In 2011, former Congolese President Joseph Kabila traveled into the country carrying a list of suspects linked to gold worth 8 billion shillings that had disappeared from Congo. Soon after, a 392-page United Nations report investigating Congo's illegal gold trade named Paul Kobia as a lead suspect in the network, allegations he strongly denied. But there was one thing Kobia never denied. In 2009, he shot and killed John Wanjohi along Limuru Road after the man allegedly stole his phone. The incident only deepened his reputation as a man feared inside Nairobi's underworld. And he was not the only powerful figure operating in that space. One man who knew Kobia closely was Chris Obure, better known as Don Chris Obure. At one point, Obure even worked under Kobia as chief strategist and director of business development at the Great Lakes Group. This relationship would later collapse after Obure snitched on one of Kobia's fraudulent gold dealings involving a foreign investor. Kobia was arrested and later released on a 400,000 shillings cash bail, with the fallout forcing Obure to flee to South Africa. He stayed there for a while under the protection of Dennis Schmelzenbach, the same person he had snitched to on Kobia's fake gold dealings. But eventually, the conflict disappeared and the case was quietly settled. Obure would later return to Kenya and join the same gold trade he once tried to expose. Soon, he too became associated with extravagant wealth, luxury convoys with CH jet number plates, influence, and stories of violence. According to one account, a reveler who confronted Obure over a badly parked Range Rover outside B Club allegedly ended up being pistol whipped. Then came another name that would later dominate headlines across Kenya: Jared Otieno. In 2015, Jared shocked the country after throwing a lavish $15 million wedding ceremony. He arrived to ceremony with helicopters, luxury SUVs, Porsche vehicles, and a convoy so extravagant it became national news. This display of wealth was impossible to ignore. But years later, his name would also appear in investigations linked to fake gold operations. In 2019, a Stanbic bank account reportedly linked to Jared Otieno and Chris Obure, containing nearly 300 million shillings, was frozen after investigators said that the funds were proceeds of fake gold scams. Police later raided Otieno's Karen residence during investigations connected to a Dubai gold fraud case, where multiple luxury vehicles were recovered. And then, the last member of this gold syndicate was Kelvin Kleigh, also known as Kevin Kobia, a businessman, entertainment figure, and socialite known for extravagant birthday parties attended by celebrities, politicians, and influential figures. Despite arrests and allegations linked to fake gold operations and firearm misuse, Kleigh continued living publicly and lavishly. His connections across entertainment and political circles only strengthened the belief that some individuals inside Nairobi's fake gold world operated with protection and influence. And that is what makes these syndicates different from ordinary scammers. This is not simply fraud, it is an entire ecosystem built on image, fear, influence, and illusion. A world where politicians, businessmen, luxury cars, bodyguards, and fake gold all collide inside Nairobi's underground economy. And for foreign investors chasing easy millions, that illusion can become extremely expensive. For years, Kenyan authorities, foreign governments, and international investigators have repeatedly warned investors about fake gold syndicates operating in Nairobi, yet the scams continue. But why? Because these operations are not built on fake gold alone. They are built on human weakness, greed, urgency, status, and the dream of becoming rich overnight. Most victims never walk into these deals expecting to be scammed. In fact, many believe they are the smart ones, people accessing secret gold markets outside official systems where profits are supposedly enormous. And that is exactly what the syndicates exploit. The moment emotion replaces caution, the victim begins making decisions they would never normally make. Millions are wired, questions stop being asked, and by the time doubt finally appears, the money is already gone. This is exactly what happened to the Australian businessman Andrew Adol Gabala. Often, most of the fake gold deals connected to Nairobi are never even reported, since some victims fear embarrassment and exposing their illegal or unofficial business arrangements with the DRC. So some simply disappear quietly after losing millions. And that silence is one of the reasons why these syndicates survive. In the end, Nairobi's fake gold industry is not really about gold. It is about performance, power, manipulation, and the ability to make somebody believe they are standing inches away from unimaginable wealth, even when nothing is there at all. This has been Dark Hour Docs. Thank you for watching.